Hello and blessings, beautiful people. Oh, it's so nice to be sitting here with a cup of tea in my mummy cup and a glass of water. So just a little heads up, my energy levels are super low because I have glandular fever at the moment. So please do forgive the meh of my energy today. But I'm so excited to share that the hubby and I, the family and I, we are looking to build a house of our very own. Now, we have owned so many houses over the years. We've bought, we've sold, we've moved around, trying to find that perfect place. And we've always wanted to build, you know what I mean, guys? We've always wanted to build. We've been those people that, you know, watch the tiny home vlogs. We've watched, you know, the yurt videos. We've watched van life stuff. Then we've watched grand designs. And we're really interested in living conditions and living situations and innovative house designs. And I wanted to live for the longest time in a yurt, but that didn't happen. And then I wanted to live in a tiny home, which is happening right now. And I've got to say, I quite dig it. However, it's starting to feel a bit small, particularly as the kids start to grow and their needs start to grow. But that's a story that I've bothered to write about in the notes for this video, mind you. Nevertheless, like, I've had all of these design ideas for houses, as I'm sure you know, because when you have this desire, when it's a dream of yours to build your own home, you of course are going to look out in the world and see how other people do it, essentially. So that's what we've been doing for the longest time. I didn't even know that grand designs was a thing until I met Matt some, 10, 11 years ago now. And he got me into grand designs, and one of the very first grand designs that I ever saw was the most unforgettable to me personally. And it was a straw bale house. And I really, really loved the idea of living in a straw bale house. My battery is going to go flat, which is really annoying. I'm going to have to change my batteries. Just a second. Okay, new battery, disaster averted, and now I've lost my train of thought. So let me just start where I feel like starting. Just pity me, folks, I'm not feeling great. So I believe where I left off, roughly or thereabouts, is that I fell in love with a straw bale house design, being that was one of the very first videos that I saw, or episodes that I saw of grand designs. And for the longest time, I've always been really interested in eco-friendly build in adobe homes, in mud brick, but I'd never seen a straw bale before done so perfectly. I mean, oh my gosh, this place was in a forest in the UK, and it was wooden floors, straw bale, structure, but then everything that was included was rough and whimsical, very elvish, if you will. So there were whole branches that comprised the staircases, or the railings for the staircases, and just every detail was as natural and as naturally whimsical as you could possibly believe it to be. And so of course, when they present something in such an amazing way, you just go, I want to live in that. That's my dream house. And so I've held on to that desire for the longest time. But let me just have a quick drink of water. This is a jam jar. Anyways, as I was saying, may as well have a sip of tea as well. I hope you're having a cup of tea with me. That would be really nice if we could just sit and have a cup of tea together. So nice. It's Yorkshire I'm drinking. I should really be drinking something herbal, but no, Mama needs some energy. Anyway, so I've been looking at straw bale and I've been looking at mud brick, and for a while there, Maddie and I were on the same page about, yes, let's do this. But it's so much work with so little support, and also it's quite tricky getting approval for those types of things. So we decided that, as heartbreaking as it was not to be able to really go there with this grand design that we've always wanted, and by grand I don't mean expensive, I just mean in our minds we've always wanted this, And so it feels very grand to us to be able to make a small straw bale home and to be able to make it good and beautiful. It just isn't within the realm of possibility right at this moment. And so we've been really hesitant as to whether or not we even wanted to go out there and build a place, because we couldn't get exactly what we wanted. And also, believe it or not, Maddie and I have quite different ideas on what is a grand design. He was okay with the idea of a straw bale, and he was always kind of like, yeah, we could do a straw bale. But then the amount of work that goes into creating a straw bale home is really, really cumbersome as far as time goes. It's expensive on time. It's expensive on resources, and it's expensive on time. And that's something that really, really, truly, genuinely bothers me. Just to the bottom of my heart, it bothers me. Is that in a landscape like today, hello Snowy, in a landscape like today where there is so much wrong with the environment, you would think that innovative, eco-friendly builds would be something that governments and regional councils would support and even help to partially fund. And by that I mean, you know, give a grant to a person who is attempting to build an eco-friendly, sustainable structure. Like, that would be the dream, right? But sadly, that's not the dream at all. Sadly, that is not the dream. And so when you really want something and it's so hard to be able to achieve, then you've got, you know, two options. You either labor for that thing that you want, and there are times in your life where you know you've got to do that. You labor for that thing that you want. But then there are time restraints and time factors to take into consideration. And so for us, we are going to have to bypass that desire to build that ultimate eco-friendly passive house and something that is sustainable. But we have, I believe we've found an alternative solution, for us at least, to make sure that the council doesn't get too in our faces about what it is that we're doing, and also so that we can do what we've always wanted to do, and that is to create a bit more of a sustainable, eco-friendly build. So we are aiming to use a lot of timber on our property, timber that has fallen naturally. Not that we're going to knock down trees to do this. It's also not acceptable in this region to knock down a tree without having a permit to do so, and we don't need that permit. There are plenty of fallen trees on our 28 acres. We have hardwood. It's a stringy bark type of hardwood, but it's still okay to do some aspects of building. So we would like to incorporate some of that. Then we have the option to go to salvage yards and tip shops, which is like reuse, recycle, and there's tons of building materials that can be found there, things that we can bring here and directly apply to our build. So we're looking to use a lot of recycled materials, as much as we possibly can, without disrupting any kind of, you know, legislation as far as our local council goes, which I've got a lot to say about local council and their authority on people's building rights, but that's a conversation for another day. Anyway, so we are really, really looking at doing that sort of eco-friendly, sustainable build in keeping with materials that we can salvage, pre-loved, pre-used materials, and so much of that as possible. But it's a little sad for me to be able to release that dream of a straw bale house, particularly when there was just so much that I loved about the idea of a straw bale house, like the passive insulation in a straw bale, because the walls are thick, right? You've seen them, I'm sure. If not, Google it, you'll see the walls are really, really thick. And they're rendered in a mud brick kind of render. So they're smooth, and they have this almost Mexican type of rendering on them. Hacienda type of, you know, rendering on them. And it's beautiful. And you get to create such unique architectural nooks and crannies by doing it that way. Your windowsills are really deep, for instance. So the standard windowsill here is roughly like that, you get a standard windowsill, sometimes even a bit smaller or even a bit smaller, but it's, I mean, you can have a windowsill like that or even like that with a straw bale, which means that your windowsills can also be places that can become shelves, and you can inbuild you know, shelves into the walls themselves. And there is just so much that you can do with a straw bale, but without having the experience within the context of building, full stop, architectural building, the building of a house, the building of a sustainable dwelling, without being able to do that, then it just seems so impossible. And I hate to use that word, and it even makes me feel defeatist, because I've always wanted that straw bale home. I've just always wanted it. Even as a little girl, I've never had the dream of living in a mansion. I've never had a dream that way. I've always wanted to live in a tree house, or like in the rainforest, in a cottage. I've always been called to the other side of architecture. I'm sure you all know what I mean. So I have this, for the longest time I wanted to live in a stone cottage with a thatched roof. I have like really enchanted ideas in my mind. And then the shingles, the wooden shingles, the handmade wooden shingles, so it looks fluffy. So the roof and its peak looks really fluffy with a little chimney, but stone and moss and vines growing on the outside. Like, who doesn't want to live in a place like that? I mean, really, who doesn't? Exposed beams, can dry all my herbs off the top of those exposed beams. Oh gosh, so many ideas that I've had about house designs, but I've never dreamt of a conventional home. I've never wanted a modern home, not ever. I've never yearned or wanted for the big modern-esque types of structures. I just haven't. It's not within me. It's not within me to want those things. It's within me to want the things with character. And I really want to cultivate a home with an ambiance that just exudes that character, that natural enchantment, that whimsy. And while I think it's going to be difficult to use salvage materials, I think it's all in the aesthetic and the way that you actually design it, in the way that you, you know, plan it out, in the way that you decorate and all of that kind of business. But sadly, decoration is not my forte. I have an auntie who, incidentally, is born on the very same day as I am. She's an 8th of May baby. And she is an interior designer, and she has quite the vision. She's really good at what she does. And so on occasion, I reach out to her and I ask her for some tips and tricks. And she's pretty good about that, but she's also very flat out. She lives on the mid-north coast of New South Wales in a place called Ballina. And yeah, she does her thing out there. But I don't have that natural whimsy, and I know that there are people out there that dedicate time and energy to house decor and transformative designs, and there are so many things that I'm interested in, but that is not something, the process of that is not something that I'm interested in. The outcome of that is something that I am interested in. I want to be able to walk into a home that's beautifully designed in keeping with my own personal, you know, design desires, if that makes sense. And I want that as a result, but I can't be bothered finding my way to that place. You know, over the years, I've tried really hard to get into that side of, you know, house building and house designs, because I always wanted to prepare myself for the time where I would build my own home. And yet here I am years later, and I still just don't have that artistic vision to design, to create a beautiful house in that way. And I know that there are heaps of apps that you can use, and I know that there is Pinterest, which is pretty much my best friend when it comes to opening up my mind on designs. But when it comes to sustainable homes and recycled materials being used in your home, the types of designs that I see are few and far between, or at least the ones that I'm really in tune with. And so I don't even know what my style is, to be perfectly honest. I don't know what to call it. I just know that it's kind of a bit sort of like boho-ish, but that's not even it, if that makes sense. It's very eclectic. It's got a lot, like, I'm interested in textures and opposing colors, and I love wood. I love to be able to work with wood And I love to be able to have the rough of the wood with the smooth of the walls, which is why the straw bale house appealed to me the way that it did, is because you could have these beautifully smooth rendered, hand smoothed even walls that you have touched with your own hands to create that, you know, elegant veneer. And then be able to couple that with, like, you know, wooden floors and wooden benches, and, you know, to have that bit of that woodsy texture. And I'm such a changeable mind as well. Like, there's part of me that really likes the light colored timber, the light woods. Then I go through this phase where there is this like mediocre in between wood, not so light, not so dark. And then there are times where I'm really called to the dark wood mystique. The other day, the family and I went to the Autumn Harvest at Willie Smith's apple shed. And down, puppy, down, 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 down. Don't jump on me. Down, Snowy, Snowy. Down. He wants some love. And on the way back, we stopped off at the General Store, this place called the General Store in Ranelagh, which was a really, really cool little restaurant cafe thing. And I wasn't feeling well, and I'm still bummed that I had to walk away from something called Eggs Timothy, which, by the way, had bacon and hollandaise sauce on it, as well as eggs on a brioche bun. Oh, and I could barely take 3 bites. I was feeling so crap. Don't even know why I ordered it. I think I was hopeful, but I digress. Anyway, inside that cafe, I saw the dream. A warm tone of green, like a frog green, like a really vibrant green, but it was in a warm tone, and it was paired up against dark wood. And I tell you what, folks, and they had these beautiful Edison bulbs hanging inside these really large vintage, you know, brown glass kind of carafes, like oversized carafes, and they were the light fixtures above the countertop. And then these old, what they were using for tabletops were reclaimed road signs that they had, you know, obviously tucked the raw metal edges away discreetly, obviously, and then coupled them with some really interesting chairs. And the whole decor was just so interesting to look at and so whimsical that I really, 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 really wanted to live there. I'm like, I could do that. Maddie, look at this green. Doesn't it look great with the dark wood? And he's like, yeah. And then there was like this warm grey, you know, backdrop as well to the far back wall. I should have videoed it for you, but I wasn't on my game, folks. I was not on my game on that day. Nevertheless, here we are with this opportunity to build something that means something to us all. A family home that we can say we had a huge, huge role to play in its design, in its aesthetic. We want to be able to, Snowy, he keeps jumping up on me. We want to be able to say that, you know, it was built out of love. It was built out of wanton love. Something that we truly believed in, that we were really proud of, that we worked hard to achieve. We want to have all of that factored in. And that is where we are at right now. So we have had soil testing done. We have had the surveyors come in to determine the best place for the house. So the process is starting to unravel slowly, and we would really like to be able to start, you know, tearing up the dirt soon. But it's a big task, and we still don't know exactly what we're going to be using, and we still don't know what direction we are going. But we have decided to make a start on the gardens, and we've decided that we are going to put in our house and our home garden, our fruit and veggie garden, just outside of the current perimeter fence. And we're going to have to enclose that. It's obviously still on our land, but the soil test that was done on the property told us that we are currently living on an ancient landslide, which is why the soil is so clayey and so rocky. And there are pockets of earth around us that are a lot flatter and that have a much darker soil. So they are the areas that we are looking to create our gardens, our food gardens. And we've been immersing ourselves in permaculture design to a degree, just like looking into it lightly, watching a lot of videos, reading up a lot of blogs, asking a lot of questions to the people that we know that are already permaculture designers, i.e. our friend Sandy, who lives up on the central coast of New South Wales, and my dear friend Gordon, who is my neighbour. So yeah, so we're doing everything that we can to start things, and hopefully the flow of creativity will take us into a direction that is sustainable, because we don't want to start going down the route of reclaimed or resalvaged materials only to hit a wall and we can't get any more, and then we've got to like make that decision in the moment of, well, what are we going to do now? Because that is something that does happen, and people do talk about that happening, where they've gone down one route and things haven't worked out completely to their liking, or they've hit a roadblock in some way and then they've had to adapt. So we want to make sure that whatever road we choose, we can adapt, and whatever adaptation method we can end up with or we choose to go with still fits well, so it doesn't produce something that is like disjointed or haphazard or, you know, just opposing or polarizing. The aim of the game is a home that can suit us all. The aim of the game is a home that can house our family, our love, our hopes and our dreams, and that can reflect those things adequately. A house that we can be proud of, and a house that can grow if necessary, because we are a family of 5 with small children, and one day those children are going to start to really grow and desire more space around them. So that is something that we are interested in being able to offer them when the time comes. So that's it. Thank you for sitting down with me. I barely took a sip of my tea. I feel like I need to take one right now. Yes, so please do comment on what kind of home you've always wanted to live in. What's your dream home? Like, describe it to me. What does it look like? And yeah, let's have a nice little talk about that, because it's so fun to be able to talk about, you know, house designs in a way that is meaningful, rather than I want to live in a mansion. I mean, I'm not bagging out anybody who wants to live in a mansion. I'm not throwing shade at that. There are some who genuinely desire that, and that's a dream. And who am I to go around stomping on people's dreams? But my dream is to live off-grid in the woods, and to be able to live in a place that fits the ambiance. I don't want something that stands out, that eclipses the space. I want something that just is a part of the forest here, is a part of the woodland region. And that is something to consider. So with all of that said, thank you so much for sitting here with me, having this really whimsical, fun, open-hearted, blah, 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 design chat about houses. I hope you've enjoyed this, and I do hope that you leave your comments below, because quite frankly, this is a good conversation. I like having these conversations. I talk about these types of things with my friends, and that should tell you that it's a conversation that I like to have when I'm just recreationally speaking, when it's my downtime and I'm just, you know, shooting the shit with my friends. So there we have it. I'll talk to you guys soon. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Please do give it a little heart here on Patreon. You can't thumbs up, I don't think, but you can heart, yes. So do heart it, but genuinely leave your comments, because I'm really curious to see, you know, what other people desire as far as their grand structures go. So bye, beautiful ones. Talk to you soon.